Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside for the all-new Jim Cornette Cultcast, where I'm slappy today and have no fucking idea what we're going to do. Yeah, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to talk about my weekend in Chicago and the assorted hoo-ha that went on around it on the inter-Twitters and all the other things. And to join me in this, and hopefully to keep me awake, my retirement isn't working out like I thought. At least the sleeping part. To help me, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting line, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard podcast network. Oh, fuck, he likes French toast, too, and you know the rest. I ain't got the fucking air. The great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. This is the sickest or the most tired you've ever sounded during an introduction to the show. You sound like me 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm like one of those fucking, I'm not sick. I'm just burnt, and it was so cold, and it is so cold, and I had so little sleep for so long, and I'm trying to make sure that we make the cult happy and continue to honor commitments and things. Yeah, the retirement not working out like I thought it was. I will at the top of the program here, I'll say we're going to go in depth on the MLW television taping, the in depth on the MLW deal that I have and how it came about. And what it is, and dispelling any rumors out there or misinformation. We talk about some of the talent. We're going to be talking about what I'm still going to be doing, because basically the upshot is I'm going to be doing everything that we've advertised that I was going to be doing, except sleeping. So retirement is very stressful. I advise you kids, save up. Don't save up money for your retirement. You'll never make so much money in your life as when you're retired, but save up the sleep. You're going to need it. But we're going to do all that today on the program. So we'll answer everybody's questions. I appreciate all the response. I even appreciate the people who said, oh, piss off. I'll never watch MLW again after next time when I see what else that asshole's going to say. But thank you for all the feedback and the reviews. I will say at the top of the program, I gave myself a B- on my announcing because besides for the NWA 70th show in Nashville, I hadn't really done any color in about a year and a half or almost 2 years since did the pay-per-view over there in England with JR. Yeah. So I was a little rusty, but then also because this deal came about so quick, honestly, I only had, a few days to brush up on the talent and the reasons that they were all there and who was mad at who. So I wish that the third match, we had two short taped matches before the live show went on the air, and called those. But I wish that the third match that I called an MLW had not been the 100-mile-an-hour lucha match and I'm not knocking lucha, but just that it's impossible to move your mouth that fast. You can't call a lucha match. It's a different style of announcing. You can't call the moves that are going on or tell the story because it's a spectacle. And I was starting to think, oh, fuck me, I'm going to be in high weeds here. But we worked it out later on in the night and got a little flow going. Did Rich Zucchini and myself. Rich was fun to work with, but next time I'll know a little bit more about what's going on because now I've been indoctrinated. But honestly, this was not something that was in the works for a long time. Court Bauer had called me, and I've known Court for years. He's actually the one that talked me into doing a podcast. He got me in this whole goddamn thing. I guess I should have hung up on him. But he called and mentioned that Tony Schiavone, who is under contract to MLW, has been doing the program, but that's when they were taping on Thursday nights because they had a live night on BN Sports, and then they'd tape several other weeks around it. And Tony has like 72 jobs. He's the hardest working man in show business. And now that they've switched to Saturday night on BN, Tony can't make it. So wondering if I'd be interested in doing New York. That's the way it started, was to come up for the weekend in New York because it's two shows. They've got a live Battle Riot and then they got a TV taping. And, everybody knows how anxious I am to drive to New York and back on at any point in my life. But there was a very generous financial offer attached to this. And also, he was kind of in a position, and so we agreed to that. And we were going to, once that they got by with their show then this past weekend, they were going to announce that. But then Court called me back and said, well, he had mentioned to the folks at the network that I was going to be on board in New York, and they had asked him if I couldn't just come on and come to Chicago this weekend. And then he called me back, and then when he had already, unfortunately, relayed the information to me that the network was asking for me, there was another generous financial offer involved. I guess I don't make Court sound bad. It's all in good fun here. But yeah, so I raped Court Bauer for a lot of money. No, but anyway, so that's why, and we decided since there was no really way to advertise it at that point besides just put it out on the internet. Oh, Jim Cornette's going to be here too. And they're almost sold out anyway. And they did sell out and actually added seats and sold out again. But it wasn't like this was going to be a ticket selling thing. So I said, let's just make it a surprise because I like to do surprises. So that's how that came about as a surprise. And it was very nice. Somebody just repeated over and over on their camera phone, holy fuck. I mean, it's not like I showed up in goddamn Cambodia somewhere coming out of a helicopter, but it's Chicago.
Were you tempted to come out of a box?
Well, anybody comes out of a box gets over, but actually they couldn't find a box big enough for me. So I just came out of a curtain like everybody else and still got over. But anyway, we're going to talk about the whole show a little bit later on, but that's basically how the deal came about. And, I want to make mention see, this is the problem is, and even Mike Johnson of PW Insider, my email, the fucking internet in the hotel was a shits. I couldn't even hardly get on the email. I tried to explain, but I just I'll do it on the show. Mike had said he had confirmed with sources that I had joined not only as an announcer, but also as an agent for the company.
Yeah, I saw that.
And somebody else mentioned that I would be full-time going forward. First of all, I'm not full-time anything except fucking cranky these days. I mean, it's not like an announcer for MLW or any other wrestling promotion. They really would be full-time, except WWE maybe to begin with. They made it sound like I was going to go to an office from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday and clock in. I am not opposed to further dates with MLW after New York that I've committed to. But no, I'm not dropping everything else I'm doing and taking a full-time job. I believe I mentioned I'm allergic to the word full-time these days. Also, I've worked full-time, but at 18 different things. There's no contract. And I'm not saying, once again, I don't want to sign a contract with MLW. I don't want to sign a contract with anybody, as I've mentioned before, because it might preclude me from doing something that I'd like to do in the future. But everybody also knows that deals with me. If I make a deal to be there for a date or a series of dates or a particular purpose, and I will fulfill that commitment, you don't need to have it on paper. So, and as far as agenting, I was coaching promos is what I was primarily asked to do and did on we did the TV shoot on Saturday, and then the guys got together for promos at the hotel on Sunday, and I was involved in that. And specifically maybe working with some of the guys that have not done television before or have barely done it or are trying to present themselves in a new way and try to figure out some things that they might think of, or things that exercises, as the writers say, that they might do to try to figure out who they are and how to tell people on television. But anyway, promo coach. Also, as far as, so there's no official agent role. I'm not involved in creative. I could pop the corn too, as I told Joe Koff one time, but let's prioritize. If I'm there to announce and to help the guys with their presentation on camera, although Conan did mention, because he is the guy that runs the locker room, and he came up to me. He came up to me. No, we had a nice talk because I'd seen him, before we got to the building there, whatever. But, he said, if you see something, you don't even have to run to me to say, hey, Conan, could I tell so-and-so? If you see something that you think you can help these guys with in some way, then tell him, he gave me free reign of that thing. I mentioned to one of the tag teams who shall remain nameless, the old backslap tag versus hand-to-hand tag, and here's how you do it. And we walked through a few things in the locker room after their match, but primarily I'll be trying to help some of the greener guys or the newer guys with their promos on an unofficial basis. So that's so I wouldn't exactly say that's definitely an agent's job or whatever. But anyway, it's the same thing as some of the guys that are on the TV crew. I've worked with before. Dave Sahadi just started as the director. Dave Sahadi, if you remember back in the Attitude Era, those pay-per-view cold opens that were so artistic in the way they were put together and had the voiceovers that were so dramatic and told those stories. And do you remember that, my boy?
I remember that. And I also remember his father, Lou Sahadi.
Well, yeah, and his father, Lou Sahadi, wrote for Wrestling World in the 60s. But Dave Sahadi is the one who conceived of and wrote the copy for and put those opens together. And he did it in TNA. Then later on, when the pay-per-views had such good opens, and then it went downhill from there. And he just joined. And Nelson Swegler, who was one of the original architects of the WWF expansion television in the 80s when they still did everything down in Baltimore. He did apologize to me that he's the one that talked Kevin Dunn into moving from Baltimore to Connecticut when he didn't want to, and moving up when they moved all the TV to Connecticut. And he apologized to me for that, and a lot of other people also there. There was a Kevin Dunn story session. Yeah, he said, Kevin said, I don't want to go. My friends are here. Whatever. Yeah, all two of them.
Tales from the teeth.
Anyway, so that's primarily I'm on the announce team helping guys with promos. We'll talk about the show and the matches and et cetera later on. But I want to explain to people first how hard that people work in these wrestling promotions you may think it's all glitz and glamour and just a mere bag of shells, right? Just a box of fluffy ducks. But this was the people that bring you your favorite wrestling product, whatever it is, work their fucking ass off. And this is why that I try to stay in the house and stay off the road, because I feel like I've been hanging off the edge of a cliff for 3 days. I left on Friday morning to head up there because we had a production meeting, a little get together, et cetera. And we're going to shoot a couple things for BN Sports on Friday evening at the hotel. So I decided I'd get up there and get checked in. It's a 6-hour drive. So if flying or driving, if you fly somewhere, by the time you leave your house, get to the airport, check in, wait, take the flight, get your bag, get the fucking transportation to the hotel, it's 4, 5, 6 hours anyway. So it's the same thing. Everybody. And some people, Court Bauer was delayed from the Northeast, so he had an even longer trip. But everybody traveled, 5 or 6 hours or longer to get there on Friday, check in the hotel, a little bit of a meeting, get together, shot a couple things. The folks at BN Sports, that racket cover, they made me a custom-made in purple, their color with the BN Sports logo, racket and racket cover that I could take out for the occasion. And FedExed it up from Miami, so my hat's off to them. But anyway, so we do that and then have some dinner, and it's 8 o'clock. You've had a 12-hour day, right? So try to get a good night's sleep, because the production meeting on Saturday is at the hotel there at 9:30 in the morning. So you're up at 8, right? You have a meeting at 9:30, which actually turns into, 10 o'clock, which then gets over with about 11:30, and then I'm thinking, well, maybe I can stop at McDonald's on the way there, right? But Court and MSL and several of the producers and some of the TV crew are sitting there waiting on their Ubers. And the Uber driver is apparently giving Court all kinds of shit in some kind of accent. And he's like, well, you want this ride or not? I don't know what the fuck, maybe he was Russian. I said, hey, I got Black Beauty. I can carry, 6 people besides myself. So hop on in. So they all get in. I said, you want to stop getting something to eat? And they said, we're going to have food brought in. And there's the one complaint I got about MLW, their catering. More on that later. We're going to have food brought in. I was all right. So we get over to the building, Cicero Stadium, about noon. And I love this fucking building because it's old as shit. You can tell it's been there forever, but it seats like 2,000 people. It's like Chicago is so big. And you know, from the early 50s Wrestling As You Like It magazines, not only did they run live wrestling in the early 50s with the network TV and et cetera, the International Amphitheater in downtown Chicago, but they ran the suburbs. They ran the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Marigold Arena, Rainbow Arena, a Cicero Stadium. Can you name a couple more? We've seen the ads. The point is there was wrestling in these small clubs that seated 1,500, 2,500, 3,000 or whatever in around Chicago. There was live wrestling 3 or 4 nights a week, every week in those days. And this is a building that, Buddy Rogers has wrestled Vern Gagne in this building at some point, right? 70 years ago. So that it was cool, but it is in an industrial neighborhood or whatever. There ain't no goddamn, there's not a lot of food choices. And I was like, well, no wonder they're going to have shit brought in, right? So anyway, we get in there. What they had brought in was Chicago deep dish pizza with pepperonis and sausage and all that stuff, which is normally I would like. But on a day when you're going to be sitting next to a guy real close under hot TV lights, excited for about a 4-hour period, that's a lot of fucking acidity and fucking grease. And I had one piece. I said, I can't do this. I will shit myself on the finish of the main event, or I'll crop dust Rich Bocchini all night. So I had one piece of pizza. It was nice of them to bring it in, but maybe it wasn't the right genre of food. Anyway, so, we talked to some of the guys, get some notes, meet some of the guys. Once again, everybody on the internet was like, well, that's everybody there that he hates. Everybody there that he hates, why would he go there? There was not one human being in that building that I hate or have ever wanted to fight, I don't think. Oh, except for Alex Greenfield. And he said he's on his meds now. And he apologized. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, he said he had a Twitter phase of something or other. But anyway, we actually had fun and some laughs, as I'll tell you here later. He was in the car, too. Greenfield was in the car. So... But anyway, the afternoon we do an announcer prep and looking at some packages and everything. And then we do the show, obviously. Well, and then after the live show was the rest of the TV taping. And then there's some things to have to be. And I've got all the bosses in my vehicle, so I'm not going to rush them. There's things that need to be done. So we get out of the building. We got there at noon. We get out of the building about 12:30. And needless to say, I'm hungry, right? But everybody else is too. So we said there's got to be some place. But now here's the thing: it's the hotel also is in kind of an industrial area, but right next to O'Hare Airport in Chicago. On Saturday night, one would think McDonald's would still be open, the drive-through right down the street from the hotel. One would be wrong. One would think the Wendy's, 0.4 of a mile on his side, that would be wrong. The guy finds on his phone, one of the guys finds on his phone, Steak and Shake. Well, they're open 24 hours. It's 3 miles from the hotel. Off we go. We pull in the parking lot. Steak and Shake lit up bigger than Christmas. There's a bus sitting outside of it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Is there a bus? But no, everybody on the bus is just coming out the front door. They pour out. They're getting on this bus. I'm like, oh, shoot that thing. No, I'm like, this is perfect. This whole place is just emptied out on this bus. And now we go in, there's 6, 7 of us or whatever. We're just going to eat everything in sight. We walk in the front door, and the first thing a big fat woman behind the counter says to us is, it's carry out only. We're not seating anyone. I said, why? I said, are you not open 24 hours? Not tonight. We're not. Oh, the place that's open on Christmas and fucking New Year's doesn't even have a goddamn lock on its door like White Castle is fucking goddamn closed on Saturday night at O'Hare Airport in Chicago at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock. I said, do you know potentially where we could get some goddamn fucking food around this fucking wasteland? And they look and said, where's the Ihop right over on the other side of the parking lot? Thanks a lot. Yeah, I used to know a one-legged waitress that worked there. I said, thanks a lot. And we fucking in court kicks the door open and we storm out. And the last guy at the door, I can't remember who it was, said he heard the cook say, was that Jim Cornette? So I'm thinking if the fucking video services, it'll be another dairy, but a Steak and Shake. Yeah, it's a Steak and Shake. So we go to Ihop, right? Trust me, nobody was hopping. There was we had one waitress. I know there was a table of 6 of us, but it was like burgers and chicken fingers. It wasn't like we were there by the time that we sat down until we ordered till we got the food. We were there an hour, right, at IHOP, and it wasn't crowded.
Why wouldn't you do the French toast? That's the best place to get French toast.
Oh, goddamn. I'll tell you what I had. I had the fucking fried egg bacon cheeseburger with fries, and then I had a 3-egg fucking breakfast with white toast and a double order of bacon because I hadn't eaten but one piece of pizza since 5 o'clock on Friday evening, and it was now Sunday morning at fucking 2 a.m. And then I licked a plate, and then I stole the goddamn jelly packages and fucking stuck my finger in them and then sucked them down. Because I was storing up food like a fucking chipmunk in my fucking pouch in case, I didn't know when I was going to eat again, right? So then by the time we get back to the hotel, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, I've just had goddamn a double meal at fucking IHOP, and I'm in a strange fucking hotel room, and I've just done this show. It takes me a while to fucking settle down, but I don't have to get up till 9 o'clock because we got pre-tapes at 10 in the morning. So I figure, well, I'll get 5 hours of sleep, but then I'll wake up an hour early because I got to piss. Well, there you go. So I got like 4 hours of sleep, go down and do the pre-tapes. Now, I was going to try to leave and come home after the pre-tapes because obviously I got business at home and I'll get to in a second. But, of course, the weather forecast, it doesn't snow in Chicago, but it snows in Louisville and in Indiana on my way back. So instead of driving through that at 10, 11 o'clock at night, I said, okay, I'll do the pre-tapes, and then I will, just stay here and I'll try to get some emails done. But, of course, then the internet was shitty. But anyway, I digress. We do pre-tapes, help some of the guys out with some promos and et cetera. Well, then by the time I'm finished that, it's about 3 o'clock. So I go and I get another meal, thankfully. Now it's only been, fucking 13 hours separation between food. So I eat there at the hotel restaurant. By the time I do that, I realize I'm fucking tired. I went to sleep and thankfully slept the rest of Sunday night, but then Monday morning, get up at fucking, 8 in the morning and drive 9 o'clock, leave, get home, lose an hour Eastern time, 4 in the afternoon. By the time I unpacked my goddamn truck, I'd had a 12-hour day again. And then I was greeted to the sight of about 125 or 130 fine customers from Cornette's Collectibles. And
it never lets up.
Remember, I've said I'm never going to tap out and admit I can't handle anymore. Folks, if you want to just give me just a day or two this week. No, once again, I had just shipped everything the day before that I left on Thursday. Everything that had been ordered as of Wednesday, February 27th, went out on Thursday morning, the 28th. And I was only gone for the 4 days. So I figured, but then when I got back home, of course, by the time that I crashed and got up on Tuesday morning, was ready to address that. Also had finished my Fighting Spirit magazine column. So if you did order from JimCornette.com, since February 28th, your orders are going out either by the time you hear this, are going out tomorrow or Saturday. By Monday, folks, I'm going to be caught up. So if you want to delay an order for a day or two, but please have mercy, fucking have mercy. What do you expect from me? But we're not going to stop doing any business at Cornette's Collectibles because of my new job. It's just my 18th. And speaking of which, here's another couple of cautions, and then we'll get to that MLW television review that we promised. C2E2, if you're snoozing, you're losing. When I got back Monday, I found out we had like 14 tickets left for the Have a Beef with Jim Cornette at C2E2 March 23rd in Chicago, and that was 3 days ago as the podcast flies, so they may be gone. Wow. But if they're not, if you want to come and hang out with me for what apparently now will be closer to 4 hours, And by the time we do the Q&A and the stories and the photo ops and everybody has a sandwich and I shake everybody's hand and kiss everybody on the cheek, unless you got a beard and all that stuff, it's going to be close to 4 hours, but we put in everybody that we could. We extended the seating as much as we can, but I want to keep it where it can still all be personal. So try today if you want to come. If you get a ticket, bless you, but I wouldn't expect to be able to do that tomorrow.
With the impending sellout, do you have any fears of a riot?
No, I believe that we're going to call in the police on horseback they used to use at the downtown municipal auditorium in New Orleans to keep the people back. But now you can still hang out with me at C2E2 all weekend long at my booth and meet me, but you can't hang out with me at my booth for 4 hours or we're going to call goddamn security because that would just be creepy. But then, so that's C2E2. Then, as I mentioned, I will be on April 4th and 5th in New York City for the MLW events at the Melrose Ballroom, and I believe they call it Queens. Is that, isn't that where Archie Bunker lived?
Archie Bunker lived in Queens. Yes, Queens is one of the 5 boroughs, and I think it's Long Island City specifically.
Long Island City, then, even better than that. Because that's where they had the Long Island City Bowl and Londos used to wrestle, right?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Anyway, I'm going to be there those 2 days because that's 2 days of MLW television for BN Sports, my friends at BN Sports. But once again, people are already starting to ask. I had some of the boys ask, are you going to be on anything? No. I've just told you that this goddamn trip almost killed me to do one television taping. And on the way back, by the way, I forgot to mention when I got up to leave on Monday morning in Chicago, the temperature was 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the Windy City. That was not the wind chill, the temperature. The wind chill was somewhere around fuck you below, and it hurt my hands and face to walk to the car. So one TV taping almost killed me. So no, and I can't be away from home any longer than I'm already going to be. So because we have an extra day of pre-production planned for that weekend as well. So I will be going straight up to New York, working 3 days, 2 in public for MLW, and coming straight back here and doing no other appearances in New York City. So if you want to see me and you can get a ticket to the MLW show, I don't know what their ticket status is. That's the only place I'm going to be. Just so we got that straightened out. April 13th, I'll be at All-Star Wrestling, as we know, in Madison, West Virginia for the Midnight Express being inducted in the Hall of Fame. All other kinds of good stuff involving our friend and neighbor Stephen P. New and the Smoky Mountain Legends match and so much more. April 27th, I will still be in Concord, North Carolina, outside of Charlotte for the Crockett Cup for the NWA and Ring. I'm going to work for the NWA, Ring of Honor, and Major League Wrestling in the same fucking month. How the fuck does this keep working out?
And they haven't even announced you as the Booker and All Elite yet. I mean, just imagine when they say that.
Now you're promoting that shit. It's patently untrue. Anyway, but I will still be there because I'm still committed to the National Wrestling Alliance to be their official in-house historian and color man on big events. And also on May 18th in Richmond, Virginia at the TMPT Con 3 at the Holiday Inn up there that we've talked about. And I'm going to be doing a VIP right after the Fan Fest that day. And all the Midnight Express are going to be there as well, as they will be at the Crockett Cup, along with Magnum and Nikita and the Rock and Roll. And after that, we got Fanboy Expo in July in Knoxville for the Midnight Express reunion. We've got the Gathering in August in Charlotte for the Midnight Express reunion. And truthfully, if I am open to both more appearances for the NWA and or MLW, so I am probably at this point officially stopping taking any other dates for the rest of the year until, as the fucking fathead in the White House once said, until we can find out what the hell is going on. Because I still got a business to run over here, and we have the 2 podcasts that apparently. By the way, thanks, everybody, because I said January was our record month, but February would have been the record month if we had 2 extra days in it, because February's like shit stains dick. It's just a little bit shorter than everything else. But March and the YouTube channel has grown by leaps and bounds instead of fits and spurts. So for whatever reason, I'm popular. I have no idea why.
Yeah, just real quick, Jim, let me just say a couple things. One, if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we encourage you to do so, tinyurl.com/official corny YouTube, or just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. It'll pop right up with exclusive Travis Heckel artwork. So please do that. Also, the drive-thru returns this Monday.
Yes, because we didn't have time to record a drive-through, and I apologize for that. I do apologize. Please accept my apology. But what do you think? I'm slappy. I'm fucking sleep deprived. I'm like a goddamn science experiment over here. It's a hard work being irrelevant. Tell them what you're doing on your program so we can talk about the MLW program and some of the talent that I saw.
Another big week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. A few notes about some of the upcoming shows. Kentucky Fried Wrestling returns with Scott Bowden and Howard Baum looking at the career of Joe LeDuc in Memphis. A very exciting and fun episode. I encourage everyone to check that out at kfrpod.com, or available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. I also want to make mention of the Mid-South Wrestling Television Review with myself and Mike Mills from Booking the Territory, where we go week by week looking at the television from Mid-South Wrestling, maybe the greatest wrestling television show of the 1980s, if not of all time. And we are really in a hot period of time here where Ted DiBiase turns, where the Junkyard Dog wins and loses the North American title, where Bob Roop is causing chaos and shenanigans, just like real life, all over Mid-South Wrestling. And it's really incredible
Chaos
stuff.
and shenanigans.
It's really incredible too, Jim, because there's all these things going on. There's all these little things that everything's connected. And it seems so complicated, except when you watch and Bill Watts explains everything in 2 minutes and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
The best wrestling TV. Check it out. We have audio on each episode, classic audio of these amazing episodes. That's at midsouthpod.com, or available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, the Mothership. Episode 97 is in production right now. We just recorded a truly great conversation with Les Thatcher. We're going to talk all about his memories of Knoxville, the 1979 Knoxville War, going there in 1974 with Ron Fuller and recreating what a wrestling television show could look like, and so much more, as well as we talk a little bit about something that's kind of been forgotten throughout the years, the Wrestling Cousins. Dennis Hall, Roger Kirby, and Les Thatcher. I always found it really interesting, and we get Les to go into detail about what exactly they did. All of that and so much more. I know part 2 with Jeff Otto, where we talk about Ringmasters, the Great American Bash 1985 video cassette, will probably be on this episode as well. Stay tuned for more information. That's at 605pod.com, or available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcasts. And don't forget, you can get 605 Super Podcast, as well as the Mothership T-shirts, stickers, and so much more at tinyurl.com/superpodstore, the official online store for the Mothership. Oh, thank you. I expected more booze. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, okay. So basically, I had to bone up on MLW television really quick, and watched a few episodes and tried to familiarize myself. The live show, obviously, is what everybody's seen so far. That's what we'll talk about first. And it's a runaway train. We ended up doing 14 matches, counting the live show from the time we started till the time we finished this. So it's a runaway train, and sometimes I forget what happened where. But there was one issue we had earlier in the night. When you do a live television broadcast, audio is generally, if you're going to trip over something, there's going to be some audio issue. And several times we stepped on the ring announcer because the announcers, the play-by-play announcers are wearing a headset where they hear in that headset, you hear the ring noise, you hear the crowd, you hear the ring announcer, you hear the music, you hear each other, and you can also hear people from the truck talking to you, right? But they cancel everything out, but you've got everything there. But in some cases, we couldn't hear the ring announcer, so even though it's going to the PA system, the ring announcer is announcing, we're down there talking over the ring announcer. And I hate that. That's one of my pet peeves, and I did it. So I want to try to vindicate myself. And then later on in the night, then we started being able to hear him. But as I said, I wish that I'd had more time to bone up on my lucha, because the first match on the live special was obviously the fucking Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid and Tarus. And you can't call, that's the way you pronounce it. See, I'm learning these things. You can't call a lucha match like you call an American match, because your mouth can't go that fast. And you can't really call the moves, and you can't really tell the story between the two, because there's no time to rest. It is a spectacle. So as I said, I'm not, I don't hate flippy lucha, because if lucha is well done, because the idea of lucha is to be flippy. It's a cultural phenomenon, and it is a style that's set up. And the reason why, once again, that MLW features lucha so heavy is because half their audience is Hispanic, as more than half probably in that building. Geez, we almost had a riot at one point. So no, I don't expect the entire national pastime of Mexico to change just because they come to America and I'm calling their match. So it was awkward for me at first to get in a rhythm, but later on, with a couple of them on tape that we did, then I started figuring out a way to adapt and work with their style like you do when you're, in the ring. But I really enjoyed calling the heavyweight title match, because that was obviously more of a story-driven and psychology-driven fight, and that's more up my anal cavity. But I'm not pissing on the lucha, because here's the difference to me in the flippy stuff. When guys are like, especially the younger independent guys in the American scene, when they're just out there doing cartwheels and spin arounds and jump downs and pick a bale of cotton or whatever the fuck, and doing a floor gymnastics exercise in obvious cooperation with everybody and fluid, and it's not a fight and nobody's even getting hit, that to me looks fucking ludicrous. And especially because I don't know that any of them are ever going to be stars in the lucha world, so maybe they ought to learn how to work American style, but it looks ridiculous. But when you got a lot of these lucha guys, that's disrespectful. A lot of the luchadors that came in from Mexico are 200 pounds, 225 pounds or whatever, 250 pounds. That Taurus was a fucking bull, and they're still flipping around. And I was surprised somebody didn't fucking die in this match, because they're hitting each other. They're not. That's another thing. I don't like when guys do obviously phony shit and make a joke out of the thing. But when you're doing a lot of fucking flips, but you're also hitting people, yeah, you can call that. And that L.A. Park, Rich Bikini and I had on one of the taped matches, they announced him at 106 kilos. Well, I did math in my head and figured that's probably about $150,000, right? but what, but he's huge. And I said, well, Rich tries to look it up on his phone, and he came up with 358 pounds. There's no, we're talking on the air. I said, he can't be 358 pounds. And then he put in 160 kilos. And he's 100. I don't know what the fuck. But anyway, these are some big ass luchadors. So they weren't just fucking flipping, they were hitting. But anyway, so it's just, I was surprised. A number of people said, well, he hates everybody there. Well, I didn't hate anybody there. And, well, he hates flippy stuff, would only hate flippy, stupid stuff. It looks pretty by a bunch of pansy-ass white boys instead of people that fucking know how to do it and mean it. Anyway, the standout guys to me, well, I don't want to say that because I have to go back and work with everybody. So I'll just say some of the people that really caught my eye. It's the first time I've seen Tom Lawlor live, and I thought he does a good job. I thought also we were able to It was great that you can, in a promotion like that, because they want to promote the idea of sport. So, fighters instead of performers or superstars or whatever. And Lawlor brings a lot of credibility. So I enjoyed that. I think he does a good job. It was nice getting to see not only Davey Boy Smith Jr., who I met for the first time when he was I think 2 feet tall. And Brian Pillman Jr., who I finally got to see wrestle because he's been injured every time I've tried it. And Teddy Hart, hadn't seen him in ages, and he's actually grown up a bit. I mean, everybody knows Teddy's done some screwy things in the past, but apparently he's straightened up enough now to where they're actually incorporating it into his presentation on television. It's like they did a pre-tape at one point, like, Teddy's in jail again, you know. But for whatever reason, everybody thought because I told an amusing anecdote about Teddy Hart one time, I hated him. We had a nice talk. I managed his uncle and fought against his other uncle. And, you know, it's good to see those guys because, you know, so many of them aren't around anymore. It's good to see these members of the Hart Foundation. They did a good job. Teddy Hart, I hesitate on a program now that I'm a part of. I hesitate to even talk smart like that because then I'm doing things that I accuse myself of. So I will just say he looked in some cases like he was channeling Ricky Morton with those injured ribs that he had. And I thought he did a good job. There's a kid named Alex Hammerstone that I would have loved to have had in OVW. Good looking physically, good size, but can move, great body, speaks well, great voice, good looking kid, young. I think he's got a lot of upside. He's got a finish that he takes you up like he's going to vertical suplex you. I'm thinking off the top of my head how he does this, and then he fucking turns you down and then brings you around, and it whips you around like a carnival ride. And I can't imagine that it doesn't fucking fracture your spine on landing, but apparently his opponent did walk away at some point, so I assume he's all right. But he did a real good job. Simon Gotch and the Contra group. This was the goddamnedest thing I saw all weekend. Have you seen Jacob Fatu?
Not yet.
Well, you need to, and I hope they got him on paper. Because he won't last long if they don't. I guess it's just genetically impossible for a Samoan to just not be just a freaky fucking athlete that has no business doing any of the shit that they do at the size that they are. But this guy, I've known and or managed a lot of the family. This is the son of the Tonga kid. He not only did a splash to the middle of the ring off of a cage that I assume was 16 to 18 feet legitimately up by the time he was in the lighting grid, and did the splash the right way, I will say. But also, you know, Chris Daniels' BME, the best moonsault ever, where he jumps up to the middle rope, then to the top free-handed, and then does the picture-perfect moonsault?
Yeah.
This motherfucker did that. And like a fucking cat. And now everybody's, now Cornette likes the fucking flips. But you don't understand. He's a Samoan. He's 275 pounds. He's a wild-looking fucking kick-ass motherfucker who also knows how to wrestle. And his shit looks good. I'm sure everybody's feeling it. And he moves around the ring well, but then you uncork that and he apparently effortlessly did it, just nailed it, right? I couldn't believe my eyes. That's when you've got a guy that you could build around. If I'd have had him in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, or Dusty Rhodes would have used him in Jim Crockett Promotions, probably with a manager. You have a fucking beast like that can do freakishly athletic things like that and still looks like he wants to fucking chew your carotid artery out. You can draw money with a motherfucker like that. So this guy and the cohort they have is named Joseph Samael, and he throws fire and set a motherfucker's face on fire later on in the night, and it was one of the better fireballs I've seen. But there was those three guys, when they beat this baby face up and they spiked him like Kevin Sullivan, they got some juice on him, and then they were trying to carry him out, and that goddamn Jacob Fatu does that moonsault right off onto him on the goddamn stretcher. And Jesus Christ, the people were starting to get hot, and there was maybe 15% smart fan half Hispanic and 30%, 35%, regular Caucasian, but just regular fan. And they were packed in there. So somebody throws a fucking bottle in the ring, a bottle of water, and one of the guys grabbed it and chucked it back. And what he did is some of it spilled, and oh my God. Here comes and I've seen this fucking movie before. One night in Lawton, Oklahoma, it was chairs, and I know they did the thing in ECW. But bottles, drinks, cups, wadded up shit. Here comes shit started flying, liquid everywhere. Me and Rich are ducking because we're afraid the chairs are next. And they were waist deep in that. Well, waist deep. They were deep in that shit. Shit was getting deep. By the time they got out of there, there was one old guy about 65 years old speaking Spanish trying to climb over the rail behind me to get at one of these guys that had just done all that shit. And this poor fellow was like 160 pounds. He was convinced he was going to whip the fucking Samoan, but they were hot. So that was interesting. There's another, Selena De La Renta has an entire group, including Low-Key and Ricky Martinez, etc. But she has some presence, and for a woman, does a fairly good promo already, and that's not sexist. That's just stating facts. A lot of the girls ain't orators, but she does a good job, and basically, I think you've heard of MJF, right? Maxwell J. Friedman.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his promos. He's got a lot of potential.
That's what everybody had been tweeting. I've seen his name tweeted to me as this is the guy's promos that you should listen to, and they were right. He's 22. He's not the biggest physical specimen, but he's not painfully small like some folks either. He's got good height, and he will fill out as he grows into his big paws. And his tag team partner is Richard Holiday, and he's a little bit bigger. And now they've got Hammerstone with him, and he's a hoss. But MJF did several very good promos, he snatched Rich Bikini's headset at one point and cut a promo later on in the night that I wish I'd have said. Actually, it was very good. So I'm interested in seeing these guys. They got some heat to them. They're new faces. They're young guys. And that's what we tried to do in OVW, was get new faces and young guys ready. Because you can't, even in New York, they got tired of Rocca after a while, right? But so those guys are good, and probably I will say my favorite guy of the night, because he just tickled me when I saw him, and he's another guy I was working with on some promos, is the Southern Psychopath Mance Warner. And this is another guy that's only been really wrestling 2 years, if that, but he's a little bit older. So he's a little bit more mature. He's got great camera presence. He does a completely different style of promo. He has an old-fashioned style of gimmick, but he does new shit. He threw a lariat that anybody would be fucking proud of. And you can tell that he is a guy who takes to working well and can adapt to things. I don't know how to explain it, but you can tell he knows what he's doing in the ring, or he has the aptitude to get it with experience. And the people like him because he's got personality. He stands out as different and can kind of explain to people. And it's natural because he didn't even know why he was doing some of the things that I was telling him was good that he was doing. He just did them. So it's, I think he's going to be interesting. And once again, it's another guy that he doesn't look like a giant bodybuilder, but he looks like a guy that can fucking kick your ass, right? If that makes any sense. So they've got some good guys, and I saw some good matches and saw a little heat. And I think they have some guys that are a little bit inexperienced and need some help in learning how to portray themselves and open themselves up on television instead of being intimidated by it, so that they can connect with people. And I do that kind of stuff in my spare time. But do you think I've answered everybody's questions on what might and might not be going on with me at this point, besides the fact that I'm completely insane and I'm way too old for this shit? Have I clarified everything else, you think?
I think so. So you're not officially an agent, but you're willing to help out people, and they're allowed to just go to you and you're allowed to help out freely whenever you want to. You are committed now for another couple of dates, but you're open to more dates for commentary. And I'm trying to think what other big questions.
If it's close enough to Louisville, yes.
Well, you're coming to New York. You can't really use that excuse anymore.
Well, I don't want to do my business on the air, but I don't expect him to come up with that paycheck every weekend or every month or every time or whatever the fuck. So it's open. Do
you have any issues if you're doing commentary and they book someone who you do have an issue with? For instance, just to throw a name out there who has worked there before, if Joey Ryan's on the show, how do you deal with it?
I might have to take a phone call during that match. I don't know that I did it the once on that What Culture show a couple years ago in Florida, which was in a fucking gym, and it was, they wouldn't let him do the dick spot because I told him I wasn't going to call it a dick spot, but he still tried to use his super penis. I think somebody hurt their head on it or whatever, but I still have the same standards, folks. But once again, here's the thing. If I sit here and actually do nothing but grumble about how everybody sucks and nobody gets it and wrestling's the shits, and don't, when I have the opportunity, such as with the NWA, or such as when I inducted the Rock and Roll in the Hall of Fame, or when or whatever I do, if somebody comes to me and says, okay, make show better, and I don't, well, then I'm as bad as all the fucking goofy play wrestler fans on Twitter claim me to be, that I don't want anything to be good. So if I can make this show better, either through my commentary or through helping some of the younger guys, then I'm technically achieving the ends that I want of wrestling not sucking so bad these days.
Could you do something like this and not give your 2 cents and not say to someone, hey, I think you could improve things by doing it this way? Could you actually just go there and just do commentary and leave, or is that impossible for Jim Cornette to do?
It is probably impossible. I mean, if I saw that there, I'm not going to just go micromanage every single person on the card like I would if it was OVW and that was my job to micromanage everybody on the fucking card, because that's one of the reasons why I get obsessive and think of nothing else, and then I gradually go insane. But in an unofficial capacity where I can just pick my spots if I see something and then I see the guy or whatever, or when it's at promos and, we've got people that we're, running through the promo room and we can deal with one at a time or whatever. A lot of times I had ideas for Mance Warner when I first saw him on tape because his hometown is Bucksnort, Tennessee.
Oh, the white boy. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And I've been to Bucksnort many times and I've been through there most of the time. It don't take long to go through there. It's only 2 square blocks, and that's if you count the Civil War cannon out behind the filling station. But anyway, nevertheless.
Just a snort.
But yeah, it's just a hop and a snort. But that's so I know how people in Bucksnort talk because I've spent a lot of time around them. Bucksnort is only about 60 miles as the fucking crow flies from Dyersburg, probably. Anyway, so you talk to a lot of people from near Bucksnort on a weekly basis. Anyway, no, it would probably be impossible because if it's somebody I want to help and somebody I see, this guy has a lot of potential. So, boy, if he sharpened this up, he'd really be doing great. That's why I like to help the guys that obviously can go somewhere. I like to help everybody, but sometimes, there's maybe the nicest guy in the room that has no chance of a career in wrestling. Sometimes you want to take the path of best returns, but we try to help everybody.
Every time you do commentary, it gets a lot of attention. Dave Meltzer always raves about, oh my God, Jim Cornette's the best guy in the business when it comes to doing play-by-play or color. You're so good at it, and it's so easy to you. Is it something you actually enjoy doing? Now?
Yeah, well, yes. Actually, ever since really, that's the last thing that I enjoyed doing in the WWF was what I could do, especially when I was doing it with JR because it was so easy. We didn't have to fucking, work at it. And that was actually my favorite thing about OVW because I could sell my talent and my angles to the people in, the way that I wanted to do so. So yeah, and also this is a job that most of the time doesn't require you to fall down, which I have retired from for sure these days. So yeah, I do enjoy announcing, and once again, I don't want to just sit down and do announcing for this, because especially on those 4-hour, tapings, and in the 2-degree weather, I'll lose my voice for a day or two. So I don't want to just go to any event and just do commentary for fucking VHS. But if it's a television production or internet pay-per-view streaming or something like that, like I've done the last several times with the NWA or MLW or whatever, yes, I like doing commentary. Doing commentary, though, when you don't have a good crew and it's not at least somewhat of a sizable production, doing commentary is goddamn miserable. It's a miserable fucking job when you're just doing it half-ass. So I enjoy this and the NWA and some of those things. But
who are you most impressed with? Out of all the guys there that you're just now getting exposed to, who are you most looking forward to watching as you're doing commentary for these shows?
When the MJF for the promos, Mance Warmer, Mance, you can tell I'm still tired. Mance Warner for the gimmick. Jacob Fatu, I just want to see what else he's got, because it was amazing. He had the walk and the facial and the look and the whole thing, and then was doing that stuff. I want to see him for the in-ring stuff. And Lawlor, Tom Lawlor achieved enough success and notoriety in the UFC that he brings a great aura of legitimacy, but he's also always been a wrestling fan. So he represented wrestling when he was in UFC. Now he's representing UFC when he's in wrestling, and it makes it more athletic to me. And I think I'm the only person, I guess, I'm one of the only announcers in the business now, the reason why people praise it when I do it, that has had both the experience doing and the opportunity to call wrestling like a sport these days, instead of doing the sports entertainment announcing or trying to calling it like a sport, but having never been able to work with the guys who taught me how to do it, like Jim Ross. So I think this is like, Cornette, I used to think you were a dumb fuck, but so many other dumb fucks have come along. You moved up the ladder without doing anything. I don't know that I'm the best by fucking default, maybe.
The last month, we reviewed Raw and SmackDown here on the show, and now you're doing commentary. Is this the most modern wrestling you've watched in a short period of time? In a long time?
I would say aggregate over the last 5 years, yes.
So you have hope for the future of the business, I guess, the next question.
Well, it's not as bad as I thought, because everybody was sending me the shit on Twitter. There's still some sucky shit out there, but it's I have to say it's not as bad as I thought. But once again, we have to pick our spots.
All right.
Oh yeah. Well, have you finished interrogating me? But I have to go to sleep. I
was trying as hard as I can to get us over an hour.
What are you? We've been talking for ages. It's just. I'm fucking slappy. All right, well, that's what I did this weekend. And next week, this weekend, I'm going to be all caught up on Cornette's collectibles, and all caught up on my columns, and all caught up on my sleep. And we're going to have a wonderful drive-through for Monday, and we're going to have a great experience for next week. And I'll tell you what new job I've taken over the next week or so. But hey, get those C2E2 tickets. If you want to have a beef with me, the beef's about to be fucking spoken for. So that's the most important thing. Don't get shut out of that. And I guess everything else I do is going to sell out. So get your tickets early, folks. We're expecting an all-time record-breaking crowd.
All right. And if there's an overflow crowd, I guess you may be forced to go sit with Bischoff or something.
I hear they got plenty of room.
That's what I heard too.
Event. So if you'd like to drop by there, we might, for the people who can't get a ticket to my show, we may try to do something to make it good, like give you a 10% off for their show or something like that. Anyway, all right, folks. Yeah, let me go to sleep, and I promise I'll talk to you longer and better next week. Give me a break. Have some mercy, folks. And the orders are coming as soon as possible. I swear they are. Until then, it's going to be a graveyard digging in a coffin, buying long time, weeping and a family crying. No, that's the wrong close. That's the Dream Machine. I just say thank you, fuck you, bye-bye, everybody.